Hello and welcome to the Creative Life Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Qureshi, but you can call me Q. Welcome, Erin Walter and Andrew Solin of Parker Woodland. Hey, y'all. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So, I have interviewed you before, Erin. You were on another podcast of mine in 2021. Do you remember it?
I do, but it feels like a lifetime ago in some
It
ways.
does. It does. There is definitely a time warp, right? Like, I have no idea where the last 5 years have gone.
No, we named our new album There's No Such Thing as Time, and
Ah,
that reflects how I feel.
100%. Yes. Okay, I'm going to kick our conversation off with a little icebreaker question that each of you will have to answer. Are you ready for this?
Dun dun. Yes.
Okay. What is the last album that you listened to? Full album.
Ooh, Andrew, you answer while I think about what I listened to on my road trip.
It was both the first two Smashing Pumpkins records because I picked them up on vinyl. So Siamese Dream and Gish. And I listened to them
Nice.
both
Recently, too,
Excellent.
we're always talking about these albums.
pretty recently.
That's awesome. Well, I just drove home from Colorado, so I listened to like so many of my favorite albums all the way through. I listened to multiple like early Jimmy Eat World records, Rainer Maria records. I'm currently obsessed, as is everyone, with Chapel Roan, so some of that. Yeah, and I mean, I listened to our record because we're doing all these interviews, and I want to like have it fresh in my mind. Um, I'm sure there's more, but yeah, it was actually a big joy of the road trip to just get to listen to albums all the way through.
That is fantastic because I feel like listening to albums is not as popular of a thing as it was before. Like I don't know. I grew up listening to whole albums, right? And I have vinyl too, and that's you have to listen to the whole album. It's not like you can skip around that easily. But
Mm.
I think there's something really special about an album as an art form.
So when Andrew and I got together and started working together, we talked about this because it's like singles seem to be all the rage these days,
Right.
EPs, nothing wrong with that. But we definitely had these conversations about the love of the album and why the album is important. So I don't know, Andrew, if you want to share a little bit about your feelings about that too.
Sure. I mean, even more than that, like the next level is a concept album. And I always want to make a concept album. And so we had to kick that back and forth a little bit. Like, what do we think is a concept album? What are my concept albums that I kind of like would think about maybe modeling our album after, or
Hmm.
at least having it be inspired by? And then like what should be the concept for our album?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think whether we fully intended to or not, we've landed on like hopeless romantic in the apocalypse. When I go and I listen to it and I think about it, I'm like, yep, that's what it is for me. I like for people to be able to interpret, the music themselves as well. But anyway.
Excellent. Okay, well, we're going to talk about your album in a bit. But before we do, I want to kick off and talk about the band. And I want to talk about you guys, each of you, as individual artists. And so, Erin, when I talked to you in 2021, you had just formed Parker Woodland, and it was in a different iteration. And it came out of, you were this you minister, activist, just kind of fiery personality that was trying to change the world, and I think you still are. But you were really focused on making music that was going to inspire people and give them something to hold on to, because we had just come through the pandemic, or we were right in the pandemic, and
Yeah.
it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
Tell me where you've been since then.
Yeah, I mean, I remember doing that interview with you, and at that time, I was actually socially distancing from my own family. I was staying at a friend's house. I remember like being in her guest room because we were having to separate because of some COVID stuff in the, so yeah, when I think about talking to you in 2021, a lot comes back to me. But the journey has been a lot of what you just described. At the time, I had taken the music that I had written for the first EPs of Parker Woodland with my neighbors at the time. And like, I used that music to do this virtual tour of Unitarian Universalist congregations. So I was sharing The World's on Fire and We Still Fall in Love, and talking about what it is to find joy and to seek beauty and love during a time of like great struggle and pain, without turning away from that, without acting like things are so hunky-dory. So that's still the thing. I lead the state justice network for Unitarian Universalists now. So it's like officially my job now.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's obviously a lot to do in Texas when it comes to seeking justice. But thankfully, everybody that I work with and help to organize understands that music is a really important part of movements for justice. And so I also get to integrate, music into that work. And then I found bandmates who also care about, LGBTQ rights and, all manner of inclusion. And so we continue to work together to write and think about art in a way that creates community and brings more life and more love into the world.
Yeah. And I want to make sure everyone knows the thing that I found most amazing about you when I first interviewed you was that, you just decided, you're like, I'm going to start a band. This is what I want to do. I want to be in a band. I'm going to start a band. And you did it. Right. And, I think that's delightful, right? You were, grown ass woman with kids, and nobody was thinking you were going to be a rock star. And then you were just like, no, I'm a fucking rock star. And you did it.
Well, I appreciate that. And if that's what you took away, then that's awesome. What I'll say is I've actually been a bass player almost all my life. And so the deal is I was playing bass in other people's bands. And I say other people's, like I was in the bands. They were my bands too, but I had never been the front person, never been the singer, never been the songwriter, had always dreamed of that. But it took a long time to find the spark, the message, the confidence, whatever it may be. And so Parker Woodland is my first band where I'm doing all of those things that I dreamed about. And it is radically different. And it is like amazing and wild. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So how did you meet Andrew? And who's your third?
Carrie Cinquina. Carrie is our drummer, and she and I were the rhythm section for the queer rock band Butch County for about a decade. Yeah, so we brought her into the fold, but that happened after Andrew and I met. I was working on a kind of an unusual one-off single for Parker Woodland that happened because, it's like when you have community and you're very public about what you're about, people think of you for all kinds of interesting things. And so there was a guy who, also a bass player, his neighbor wrote a poem during the pandemic that was just about like, it's called Perpetual Condition. And like, why do we have to keep living this way? Why does everything have to be so divisive and hateful? And so this poem of hers kind of went viral on Facebook. And then she said, I want to make a song out of this. And the guy who this mutual friend was like, I think Erin Walter and Parker Woodland would be perfect for this. So we put a little ad hoc version of the band together during the pandemic just to write and record music for this poem. And in that, I met a producer and engineer, Matt Parmenter, over at Ice Cream Factory Studio. And I had such a good experience working with him that when I knew that I needed to find a new guitar player, a new collaborator, I invited Matt to lunch. For those in Austin, one of my favorite spots is Cherrywood Coffee Shop. So I invited Matt to Cherrywood. I told him what I was looking for, like the big dreams I had for this new band and the grandiose ideas I had for this album and all that. And I asked who I should work with. And he recommended 5 people. 2 of them I was already doing things with. So I was like, well, he must understand me. It was like, yeah, a couple of people I already knew. So that was cool. And then Andrew and a couple other people who had left the state with their new baby. So they were out. But when Andrew and I got together for tacos, we had a nice long conversation and it was the start of something. But it's been really amazing to work with somebody who kind of was a total stranger, obviously. And so we've had to figure out not just how to come out of the pandemic and forge a new kind of musical thing, but just like what it means to become friends and be in a band together and all of that.
And Andrew, tell us a little bit about your background, your musical background, where you're from. Were you in a band before? And, like what was your initial reaction to Erin's sort of proposal?
Okay. Wait, the
Uh-oh.
podcast is only an hour?
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Okay, so I've been playing guitar for a long time, and I think it was very early on. I just want to kind of start with this to sort of set the scene on like where I'm coming from musically. I think it was very early on when I started playing guitar where I wasn't really any good yet, but I felt something when I played guitar. And what I now think that is I feel like the guitar music in general, but for me it was the guitar, was a way for me to forge a connection with whatever, so something bigger than myself. Just when I was playing guitar, I felt like I was connecting with something, and that was the first time. I started playing when I was 12, and that was the first time that I really felt peace and happiness. So that kind of set me on this path, and I was like, always knew that I was going to have to make guitar a big part of my life. The next thing that happened was, oh, and I'm from New York, but I grew up in Connecticut. And then the next thing that happened was when I played music with other people, like when I was in high school. And I started playing music with other people. I wasn't in any bands yet, but that was a really unique experience because that was the first time that I felt like a very serious, like I guess magical connection with other people while playing music. And it was a really great feeling. It was like communicating without talking. And I loved that feeling so much. And I think like I told Erin early, in our first meeting, I'm a junkie for that. Like I can't get enough of it. And I just am seeking it out constantly. Like once I saw what that was like, I've always been after that. Then I moved to Austin to go to school. And it was unusual for people from Connecticut to move to Austin. And you can tell me if I'm going off track.
Not at all.
Okay. So it's unusual for people from Connecticut from my high school to go to University of Texas in Austin. It just was really unusual. Like no one did it.
It
Oh.
wasn't done.
It wasn't done. And the reason why I went was because my parents, they could tell that I really loved music, but they were like, well, music isn't really a thing that you can have a life with. So you can have it as a hobby, but you need to figure out what you're going to do. And we have a really good business school here. So I got into the business school and everything lined up because I was in business school like they wanted. And I was also in a town that is really well known for not just being a really big music town, but a live music town. And then on top of that, a guitar town.
Yes.
So it was amazing. It was amazing. And that's when I had like my true coming of age in bands. I started seeing bands in clubs. I couldn't see bands in clubs in high school because they didn't have clubs in the suburbs where I went to high school. So I didn't even really know what that was all about. And then I got into that. And then I started getting into bands. And then I eventually made my way into a somewhat, well, we called it mini fame. So like in Austin wasn't as big as it is right now. So at the time it was like we were like a band that people had heard of in Austin, playing like the kind of music that people played in the 90s. And we played around a lot, and that was really fun, and we almost got a record deal.
What was your band?
It was called No Good Boyo. And we almost got a record deal. And that was like, we did a lot of touring and we did a lot of playing, and it was super fun. And then where do we go from there? I was in a couple other bands. I was in a band that like toured the country, and like I moved back to New York for a little bit, and I was in a band that played every Hard Rock cafe in the country that has live music. That was
Wow.
like amazing. And then in that band we we had
I can't stop laughing, Andrew. I'm sorry. Your musical life story has so many amazing, funny things, but also I think I want us to have t-shirts that say mini famous.
yes.
Keep going.
Um, in this other band, I was lucky enough to have a friend who had gotten signed to a record label, and she was about to go out on the road to do this Hard Rock Cafe tour. And late in the tour, she got the call that they were going to build an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 around her. And we were all going
Wow.
to get flown out to Los Angeles and be in the episode. And so, yes,
Did
I
you?
know. Yes, I am in an
What? Why
episode of
haven't I
Beverly
seen this?
Hills.
No.
Yeah, why haven't I seen it yet? I've heard this story, and why
Yeah.
haven't I? We need to sit down and watch this episode as a
We are
band.
putting a link to this on the show
Seriously.
notes.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Yep.
Excellent.
So there's that. And then a funny story about that band. It was an amazing experience. I loved it. But I was also in an indie rock band in New York at the time that I had to leave temporarily to do this tour. And when I came back, that was one thing that I realized about myself and how I want to do music, which is I want to be in a band where I'm more involved in like the writing and playing and not just a hired gun. That's
Yep.
what I was for that band. I was a hired gun. And I was like, I thought I would like that because I didn't know. I was like, what? You're playing, you're touring, it sounds great. And it was great. It was super fun. As you can imagine, I mean, it was crazy fun. But from a musical standpoint, like it reminded me that like what we're doing in the band musically is really the thing that drives it for me. So it like doesn't matter like if we're playing big stages, small stages, no stages. I just like being in a band and the right kind of band where we share a lot of things that it turns out that Erin, Carrie, and I are sharing right now. So that's amazing. Then to jump fast forward over to where we are right now, I met Matt Parmenter, and he was in a band called Bell Curve here in Austin. And he was kind of in the process of leaving that band. And part of what I think is his process, and if he listens to this, he'll probably tell me yay or nay. But what I think was part of his process was sort of bringing me on board in that band to kind of fill the void that would be left when he left the band. So
Ah.
he pulled me into that band, and that band was Bell Curve, and that was a great band. And we played around Austin, and we did a little touring, and that band became a casualty of the pandemic as well. And so that's how I knew Matt, and that's how I became an eligible guitar bachelor. And so when Erin was looking,
Oh my God.
Matt thought of me, thankfully. And then just really quick, because this comes up a lot, Erin reached out to me and we set up a meeting, and I was kind of in between bands. I'd been working on my working on music. I was working on the next album for Bell Curve, and I had all these song ideas. I didn't know what to do with them, and I didn't know what I was going to do, like play it all by myself or just hire people or whatever. I had no idea what I was going to do with this music that I was starting to work on. And then it was really fortuitous that I got a call from Erin or email or whatever, and we met up. And when I met her, well, before I met her, I think I looked at something online just to see if like Erin's musical taste was like in the ballpark of what I like to do, like i.e. rock. And it was. And then when we met, I was like, okay, all I know is I think that Erin's really cool and I want to be in a band with her. I didn't even know what we were going to do. I didn't know how we were going to play the music that I was working on. I didn't even know if the music I was working on was going to work. I didn't know if the music she was working on was going to work. I didn't even know, but I was like, yeah, she's looking for a band. I'm looking for a band. Like people are the most important element of the band, more important than anything. So when I met Erin, I was like, yeah, we're going to make this happen.
That's awesome. So
That's the whole
I
story
mean,
in just 25 minutes.
oh,
Oh my God.
that's amazing.
I learned something. I learned something every time too. I'm always like, oh, so that's how it was on your side of the picnic table.
What, did
Anyway,
you
go
think I
ahead.
didn't like you?
I have no idea what I thought, dude. It took. I'm glad we're having these conversations now, 3 years later.
So how did you? I mean, yeah, it is kind of interesting because you're forming a relation, like we joke around about it, right? But you're forming a relationship. It's like and
Yeah,
it's not even, and it's a very intimate relationship. Creativity is like not something that is just like,
for real.
you've got to be vulnerable, you've got to be attentive, you've got to be able to give good feedback, you have to be able to, sync up your energy. Like it's an intense thing. So, talk to me a little bit about the beginnings when you started working together, and like, were you on the same page from right away? And I know I've heard before, and I think you've said it a few times, Erin, that there's this ethos that Parker Woodland goes by, and it's basically,
Live your life like you mean it.
yes, yes, live your life like you mean it. Like, is that something that you guys were both on the same page about? Like, talk to me about how this sort of gelled
Yeah.
in the beginning.
For
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so when I think back, like in my mind's eye, and I picture these different conversations that Andrew and I were having, because some of the time the COVID numbers were low enough to get together in person, and some of the time they weren't. So, like, I'm
Wow.
picturing myself in my garage having a phone call with him where he mentions, what would I think about a rock opera that starts with "First One to Fall Asleep Wins," which is one of the songs that I was really proud of going into, us. And I picture myself by the pool talking to him on the phone about like favorite bands and live shows and things like that. I remember us being in my living room with my dog and like being social distance while like playing different song ideas. It's I have all of these like snippets and sort of like a cinematic montage of the like Parker Woodland becomes a band. Um but I guess it was not instantaneous and not assumed, because he and I both had strong feelings about what we would want. And so I'm really happy with how it turned out, but it wasn't immediate. And it is really an important relationship. Like, I talk to Andrew and Carrie as much or more than I talk to the people that I live in my house with. Like, it's major, and you're really committing
Yeah.
yourself. It's different than like having a day job or whatever, where like it's paying the bills and everybody has a particular thing to do. But it's like, this is a thing that like we're committing to out of like love and passion and creativity and like, what we feel we're on this planet for and everything. And that's like big stuff. So anyway, I mean, I also remember things like listening to, like Andrew mentioned, having some music when we got together, and I had some too. And so like I remember listening to this one guitar part while I was walking to the like bodega in my neighborhood, and it was the guitar line that became Jets, one of the songs on a record. And I just remember hearing it and being like, oh yeah, this is a song about like the experience of soaring. And I've been wanting to write about what it's like to take a leap of faith and like soar instead of fall. So, I mean, there were just some stuff that was like instantaneous. When I listened to his guitar parts, I like had an idea. And then there are other songs where we really worked together and separately to wrestle with them until they got to the point that they're at now, where we're just like so stoked about them. So it's been, I mean, such a journey, because we were building not just an album, but like a band and a friendship and a relationship with our drummer and all of those things along the way.
Yeah, that was actually, I was going to ask next. Did you set out to do the album, or were you just writing songs and then you were like, well, you know what, we've got to put this together into an album? But it sounds like that was a goal from the very
Yeah,
beginning.
it was pretty album or bust, right, Andrew?
I would say so. I mean, making an album is always for me anyway, is always a goal. Like, I guess anybody can have any kind of a goal, like, let's get together and jam, but people do that. But also, I'm goal oriented. There's other goals you can have in a band. You can have a million goals, like, we just want to play live, or we just want to jam in my basement, like, whatever. But one of my goals is I want to make a great album. That's always like in the forefront of my mind, is like, I want to make a great album. So
And that was something that I came in with too. But what we found out, and Amanda, you'll probably relate to this as a creative person, is like two people can define the word great completely differently. So like it's like we had this common goal, but we hadn't actually defined what that means and like what each of us would be satisfied with and what we thought it should sound like, and all those things. So yeah, that has blown my mind over the last 3 years, just like realizing how important it is to define even like the meaning of one word when you're forging a creative relationship.
Yeah, that's so interesting, actually, because there's a lot to be said. You know, creativity, any kind of art is really, I mean, it's obviously some of it is craft, right? And it's very practical, but a lot of it is esoteric. It's in your mind. And I think communication
Yeah.
is such an important part of being a creator, especially if you're creating with partners, right? And I mean, there's so many ways that could go wrong, but there's also so many ways that it could go right.
There's way more ways that it can go wrong.
That sounds like the voice of experience.
There's really only one way that it can go right, but there's every other infinity ways that it can go wrong.
All right.
And again, I find myself in a relationship where it's like one of us is a kind of an optimist and one of us isn't.
Is a realist.
See, I still think of myself as a realist too, because good things do happen in real life. But again, how you define being a realist, like there's that whole one word can mean different things to different people thing again. But I like to think that Andrew and I bring a lot of like, we land in these really great places when we wrestle with the different perspectives that we bring to the table.
I love that. I love that. And I think that goes back to vulnerability being a requirement. Like you can't just, I mean, you have to be willing to meet people, you know, on a level playing field and, you know, be willing to give and take and compromise and have these conversations. And it's really hard when art is something that you feel really passionate about. So it's great that it's working for you guys. I like to see musicians. I like to see, I mean, what you said earlier, Andrew, in the beginning of your story, I've often said that the closest thing to magic I have ever witnessed is live music from a band that knows what the fuck they're doing, right? Like seeing people who can sync up like that and move that energy around and just like it transcends just playing these instruments. It becomes this sort of like single organism and it's just fantastic. But you can't get there if everyone is just showing up and, you know, trying to be self-serving. Right? You have to be able to like say, okay, I'm going to let my guard down. I'm going to allow myself to be joined up with these people and we're going to share this experience and fully share it.
Well, Andrew, you talked when early on about wanting to have like a transcendent experience on stage.
I was just gonna say that was just such an eloquent description of something that is actually very hard to describe. I think about it. I think about it all the time, Amanda. Like because I've dedicated my life to it, and it's like if you dedicated your life to a feeling. It's so weird. Like, of course, my parents don't understand that. Like, most people don't understand that. Like, you dedicate your life to a feeling or to achieving a feeling, and like you said, it has to do with energy. It's very hard. You can't really describe it. And whenever people do describe it, even my favorite bands, they use phrases like lightning in a bottle or like whatever, you know, like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just that's like so reductive to me because it's I oftentimes will ask my friends now. I just ask my friends because if I'm fortunate enough to have, I mean, most of my friends are smarter than I am. So I'm just like, why do we do this? Why are we going to see live music? Like, help me understand this. Like, I kind of stopped trying to really understand it and just like followed it because I just knew it was right intuitively for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, thanks for, we can go back and listen to this when we need a reminder, but like thanks for putting that into words. The magic. I feel like the word magic comes up for us a lot lately when we're talking about the experience. So I'm glad to talk about it with someone who gets it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm a lifelong lover of live music and alliteration, apparently. I no, I do. I've, you know, I grew up around live music. My parents were always playing. My dad always had guitars in the house. You know, have always been around live music, and it just is, there's some quality there. And you know, like, technology is such that even if you're a moderately decent musician or vocalist, you can come out, you can produce something in a studio that's going to sound okay. But where
Mm.
the rubber meets the road is when it's live, because you can't hide there. And that's where you really get to see also the improvisation, and you get to see the you know, as a listener too, you get to see the communication between the band members, and it's just very exciting. So I mean, I totally get that, and I think the fact that that's something that you prioritize and that is important to you, I think makes you a band to go see.
Hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, and we haven't gotten to play in maybe, I don't know, a month and a half since our single release party. We've been doing a whole lot of other things, and I am just like dying to get back to the stage.
Yeah.
It's definitely my favorite. I mean, I think all three of us, like, as much as we are working so hard right now on our album release stuff, and there's just so much that goes on behind the scenes, but all three of us just love the live experience. So
Yeah, you did your single release party at,
Coco Coquette.
yeah,
Yeah.
Coco Coquette. Yes, that's right. And I'll actually put a link to, because there's a video out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
we'll link
was
to that.
it was so fun. Gosh,
Yeah,
yeah. And now we're just addicted to creating these special and unique live show experiences, I think.
that's awesome. Okay, so yay, all of that is great, and you are now poised at this point to launch this album, this full album, or is it's an EP, right?
Yes. No, it's a full album. Yeah.
Excellent.
10
Okay,
songs, 10 songs.
when is it coming out?
It's called There's No Such Thing as Time, and it's coming out on Friday, September 6th. And we're extra excited because it's the 5-year anniversary of Parker Woodland's first show, and we're going to get a Parker Woodland Day proclamation from the city of Austin.
Uh,
Um, so, yeah, so it's going to be the early September. We're going to have so many fun things planned, but yeah,
wow. Okay,
yeah.
so tell me about the album. I mean, it sounds great. The first single is great, right?
Thank you. Yeah, we're putting out 3 singles. The first 2 are Makeup and Ladder at Your Window, which are out now, and then Just in Case is coming out August 23rd. Um gosh, I the album is, first of all, just kind of my dream come true. I love it so much. Very the idea is that since we're a power trio, or there's only 3 of us, like, and that the lyrics and the intentionality behind the music matters so much. Dynamics are a big part of it. So there's some like really big anthemic moments, and there's some quiet emotional moments, and then there's moments that are really big and emotional. We call it emotionally charged anthemic rock.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a real, like, in terms of like the scenes and the themes, we ended up with a real mix of like this kind of outer space apocalyptic mixed with some like very earthly scenes, like going to the grocery store, or having your parents come downstairs when you're coming out to them, and like talking to your parents about that in your house, and things like that. So it's a very like earth meets outer space album. Andrew, I will stop talking and let you say some things about it.
Sure. Well, what do you think? What else do you want to hear about it?
I'd love to just hear, you know, how, like, you were talking earlier about the about having concepts, that you're really passionate about concept albums. And I don't know that this is classified as a concept album, but what would you say is the sort of, you know, the thread that holds it all together, and how did you go about writing those songs? I mean, how did you decide, you know, that this is what needs to be on this album?
I think a lot of that comes from the lyrics, so I'll let Erin speak to that. Erin, why don't you kind of talk about that part maybe, and then I'll chime in on like some of the guitar stuff.
Well, from the songwriting perspective, like I was saying earlier, you know, some of the ideas were musical ideas that Andrew brought in. Some were songs I had already written on my own, on bass or on piano. And then some we really kind of talked about the ideas together, and then you know, worked on them together. I mean, it's hard because I want people to be able to project and like see themselves and hear the themes that they need to hear in the album. So I hesitate to tell people too much of what it's about. But there's certainly some grief, some outlets for people who might experience grief, all the way through wanting to have these like kind of triumphant. I
Mm,
describe Ladder at Your Window as our like escapist summer bop. You know, like I believe that people need that range of catharsis all the way through sort of like, you know, gleeful abandon. And the thread is like trying to find
yeah,
joy
yeah,
and love even though the world is on fire, right? It's not a coincidence that we recorded a new version of The World's on Fire and we still fall in love. I really feel like this album is like a blowing up, an expansion of that song's
all right.
concept into a full record.
What about the talk to me, Andrew, about your sort of composition style? Like, how did you meet Erin where she was? How did you? She said, you know, Erin had just said that you brought a few musical ideas. What is your sort of process for composition?
Well, this album was definitely, there were so many ways that I grew as a musician and songwriter in making this album and writing these songs. When it started, I had written a bunch of ideas that I thought was going to be for my old band. And I actually didn't like write it for them. I wrote it for me and where I wanted it to go. So I was like really like already kind of like envisioned musically what I wanted to be doing next, which is I don't know, it's kind of like I mean I don't like they're not like the most simple songs, but they're not so complicated that you would classify it as prog necessarily. You know, it's like it's very like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
accessible. It's very accessible, but I like to stretch out a little bit musically. But anyway, back to how we kind of tied it all together. Erin and I talked about like the subjects a little bit. Like Erin had a lot of lyrics and she had a lot of stories that she wanted to tell and like you know she had a lot of songs that she wanted to write and that she had written or was going to write, and I think what I learned early on was I had all these ideas. They were pretty cool musical ideas and maybe they were jumping off points in some way, like the first of all to the fact that they may have inspired Erin to either dig into this other lyric that she already had or use this other lyric that she already had, so like that was already great. But then the real, like, where we really, really kind of came into our stride on this album was when I would throw out all of the music that I had written for a song after I heard the song. And I was like, no, like, I get this, the, it made me think about writing music in a completely different way. Normally, I can come up with cool riffs like every day. Like I come up with cool guitar riffs all the time. But when I want to, now I understand, at least for this band and the way we work, when I want a song, when we want a song to be really good, which we want all of our songs to be really good, but when we want a song to really work, one of the things that I figured out that I need to do is really
Mm-hmm.
listen to the lyrics and structure the music, both like the color of the music and the tonality and the everything about the music and also the arrangement of the song so that the lyrics can have their greatest possible impact. And in fact,
Fascinating.
we
That's fascinating.
is it?
Yeah.
We think about this all the time. And I mean, like, don't get me started. We're in minute 48 of 60, and I've got so much more to talk about. But like, I love this part because it's a super challenge, and it's like writing a song has always been for me like putting together a puzzle. It's not just about like, okay, well, we've got G, C, and D, and we're just going to play that, and then for the chorus, we're going to go to C. I do write songs like that, but not for this project. For this project, I want the lyrics to be super impactful and for because that's what really is going to have the biggest effect on the listener and the live listener. And I like when you go to a show, you're like the next time you go to a show, Amanda, You'll see a band that's like a local band that maybe hasn't been doing it for a long time, and then you'll see like think about your bands that are like bigger or playing like on playing on either bigger stages or have been together for a long time and are kind of like more seasoned in their craft. And I feel like one of the big differences is you can get the message of one band a lot easier than you can get the message of the other bands. Sure, young bands like that I was in, like I loved them. They were great and you get a vibe off of the stage, like no question. But when you're talking about the material that Erin's coming up with and the message that we're trying to convey, it can be really, really powerful if you can wrap the music around the message and put it together in this really nicely dovetailed package that we work so hard on. And it really does when it works really well, and then people say, oh wow, I like your songs, not just like I like your band, but like I really like what you're saying. And the last thing I'll say in all this is I feel like it's extremely difficult to get a point across in the medium of a rock and roll band, especially in a live setting. Everything's really loud. The drums are really loud. It's like, how many times do you hear people say, I can't hear the lyrics? Like all the time. Like it's just, so we spend a lot of time working on that. That's like, all that is to say, we spend a lot of time working on that.
So this might be a sort of a weird, pointless question because I don't know that there's even an answer to it. But when you were saying that, composing a song is like doing a puzzle. But, with a puzzle, it's visual. You can see the pieces, you can try them out. How do you know? Like, how do you know? Like, what is it?
Right.
Like, what is it that makes you, yeah, like, how is it you take Erin's lyrics and then you're just like, this is the music for these lyrics?
Oh my God. Well, and he makes it sound like I wrote all these lyrics and then I hand it to him. Like it's very much all happening at the same time from my perspective. Like I record a lot of things into my phone. I definitely, write things in journals and stuff, but it's more like we're thinking about the specific songs and they're taking shape together and it's like a push and pull. Like we'll work on something like I wish if only this were video, you could see me here in my swimsuit like holding my face as Andrew was talking about what was it you said? You were like, I have done it this way before, the easy way, where there's 3 chords and then there's a chord in the chorus. But now we do it the hard way. And I was like, yes, we do. We definitely do it the hard way. But it's for the best, right? Like in the beginning of Parker Woodland, I wrote like 10 songs, 12 songs, and nobody asked me a word about changing the lyrics, about changing the structure, about anything. So like I also feel like it's worth like being honest and saying that like, the fact that Andrew and I both wanted to make something great and that we had different ideas of what was great and that he was used to being able to like engage and like contribute, which I hadn't had people do before. I mean, there were tears for me, like having to like talk about what the words meant and like whether that phrase that like came from my heart actually conveyed what I was trying to say. Like it was just, it's a lot. And Andrew mentioned like growing as an artist. I definitely feel and hope that I've grown as an artist and a person through these process and like look forward to writing the next record where hopefully I will be less attached to or have different expectations of what like the collaborative process will be like, because I'm super happy with where we landed, but no one wants to see the other person cry. So anyway, I don't know. I just think like it's worth the real talk about like, yeah, you can write songs pretty easily if you don't want to examine them at all. But if like Andrew said, you want the message to come through, you want to feel like, and to your question, Amanda, like how do you know? I mean, God, there's just like that amazing experience when you find the bridge that like answers the thing that you couldn't even articulate was missing before,
Yep.
or this one note that there's a couple of spots where like I never would have thought to have this like dissonance here, but it's like it's building tension that he suggested in my song, like in something I wrote. It's building tension because we're talking about something that's fucking tense right now, and so it shouldn't just be like these major chords and da da da, you know. So you can feel it, like I feel it in my chest right now just talking about it, but like you can feel it when something like elevate into a place of like such truth. It's the best feeling and it's worth it.
And when that happens, is it generally something where you guys are both like, oh yeah, at the, you know, you both are in agreement, yet that is it?
My experience, and I'll let Andrew speak for himself, but my experience is that eventually, yes. But a lot of times we have these conversations about like I often describe myself as a satisficer, meaning like I am satisfied with something, you know, being good enough, you know. And I've had to like get on board with I've come to understand where that's less of a good way, it's like less of a good way to be if we're trying for like musical greatness. So there have been times where I'm like, this is great, and he's like, nope, it's not there yet, it's not what I, you know. And so if it's not there yet for all of us in the band, it's not there yet.
What do you have to say to that, Andrew?
Gosh, there's so much there to unpack. I mean, yeah, it was an emotional journey, Amanda. I'm not gonna lie. It was like, it was an emotional journey. But I think that, you know, however you get there, you know, we got to a place that I think we're both pretty happy with, or very happy with. So that's what it took. I mean, like you were asking about the puzzle. If I can just go back to that, like, it's music is like a puzzle. It's like there's so many ways to look at music. It's hard, but like let's just take there's lyrics and there's music and there's a melody. So if the lyrics are sad, it's okay for the music to be happy, but it's also but like that not might may or may not be right for the song. Like there's songs where the lyrics are sad but the music's happy, and then vice versa, and then sometimes they go together, you know, like the lyrics are sad and the music's sad. So I don't know, it just sometimes we would be playing a song, you know, when Erin's like, yeah, it sounds good, and like it did sound good, like lots of the, you know, lots of stuff sounds good, but I think I like to think about things like there's going to be lyrics, and the lyrics have a message, and that message is important. And so everything around that's important. The sound is important. We didn't even talk about that, Erin. Please don't get me started on that. But like the sound of everything is important. But like also just, yeah, making sure the lyrics and the music go together, and also I don't know. I don't like to have anything. Sometime one experience I had, I did write a rock opera in one of my bands, and it was awesome. And the thing about that was really fun about that. It was such a enjoyable process from start to finish. You know why? Because we didn't care how quote unquote good or great it was. And it ended up being great. But we didn't
Mm.
care because we were like, it's a rock opera. Tropes are great. Like, tropes are like the order of the day. Like, if we thought it was cheesy, it was in. If we thought it was hackneyed, it was in. Like, it didn't matter. And so you didn't think about that. It was so freeing. You know, now I'm back to my old ways of like thinking about it all the time. like, like that was my one like my one chance to be free. Now it's just
You heard it here first. Next album, cheesy rock opera.
I'm here for it.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
maybe.
Oh,
Okay, what's the plan for the launch or
oh my
release? I'm
gosh, we
sorry.
have so much.
I'm married to a software engineer.
We are launching this shit. It's outer space. Let's launch it. We have a
Okay.
bunch of stuff going on in the first couple weeks of September. The big thing is the show at the Mohawk, which we're getting close to selling it out actually. So I don't know when this is going to air, but get your tickets. So that's Friday night, September 6th. Psyched about that. We're also doing an in-store at Waterloo Records. We're doing a vinyl sneak preview listening party on Tuesday, September 3rd at this cool place called the Equipment Room that our friends own off South Congress. It's a super cool, like vinyl, hi-fi, vintage equipment listening bar. So that's going to be fun on September
Right
3rd.
on.
I know. And we're doing a bunch of other in-stores, End of an Ear, blah, blah, blah. Love Wheel Records. I was like, think of it, Erin. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, and we are also going to play a North Texas album release party on Friday, September 13th at the Cicada in Fort Worth. So it's just going to be a lot, and we're excited, but it's a lot.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
This is super exciting. I cannot wait to hear the full album. I will try to make it to the September 6th show, and I think from what I hear, so far, because this is still a relatively new thing,
Yeah.
I think you guys are on the right. I feel like you guys are on the right track. What I just want to say, I think there's this false idea that you want everybody to be that the process needs to be smooth, that there needs to be harmony. And I'm a big believer that friction is good. Like, friction is really good, because that's where you generate energy, right?
Nice.
And as long as it's not burning your shit down, you harness it and you use it. And both of you said the same thing at one point during this conversation, and that was that you were seeing yourself grow. And in my mind, as a creator, like, that is the most exciting shit. Like, the product is great, and it's exciting to put it out in the world, but you're gonna look back on it in 5 years and you're gonna be like, we could have done that better, right? Because you're constantly evolving as an artist. But what's really, what juices you up is when you can literally feel yourself leveling up. You can feel yourself getting better, getting tighter, getting faster, getting good at what you do. And I think that's happening. I mean, I can hear it happening for both of you. And to me, that is a recipe for long-term greatness, whether you're in a band or whatever you're doing. So
Thank
yay.
you so much. Yeah, I mean, one of the things about Parker Woodland that I'm so excited about is all three of us, like, this is our band. Like, I know people do a lot of things, especially as musicians, to like make ends meet in Austin. But for the three of us, like, this is our one band, our big creative focus, and we're really like pouring so much of our heart and soul into it. And, the three of us are really, really good friends at this point, even with, like you said, like, I agree about the friction, like, and I feel like I'm learning a lot, and I'm super thankful, like to feel that you can have conflicts around things, but like stay in it.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I'm so glad we are staying in it, or that Andrew is staying in it with me, because I know it's not easy, but I mean, there's just, yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about it too. And I know that doesn't mean that there won't be challenges in the future, but like you said, like, that's where you're going to learn things, I hope.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I think that's super insightful, Amanda. I love that. And I think you're definitely right. I mean, I don't know if you're definitely right. I'll just
No,
say
I
I
am definitely
definitely agree
right.
with you.
I am right. I'm always right. This is my podcast. I get to
Yes.
be right.
Well,
Yes.
it is your
We
show.
affirm that.
Nowhere else do I get to be right. Yeah. Okay, any final words for the listening audience? Now, we are going to put all these links and stuff in the show notes. Everyone should go find you. Everyone should go to your shows, buy your shit, follow you on social media, tell your friends. But is there anything else that you would like to convey? And I'd love to hear, because you're both seasoned, for younger people, or for people that are just starting out, as musicians in a forming a new band, or any kind of creative endeavor. What is some good advice that you have for them from your own experience in putting Parker Woodland into the world?
That's a lovely thing to have an opportunity to comment on. Erin, you have experience with this, so you should go first
Oh gosh.
if you want to.
Number one, have an awesome drummer. I feel like, even though she's not here, shout out to Carrie Cinquina, who is just a wonderful, wonderful friend in person, and I'm so thankful to have her in the band. But I guess that is part of my advice, right? Like form these relationships that you nourish and nurture over a long time, and like be there for each other as people. We've all had losses in the times that we've known each other. We've been through a lot, and like, we care for each other as people as well as for the band. I come from the girls rock Austin background. So in particular, I always want to say, like, to girls, women, queer people, non-binary people, my trans friends and family, like, you go start a band. I want to hear your songs and your messages. And, the world needs your art. And maybe that's what I would say is, like, just the world needs your art. And I am victim to like self-sabotage sometimes, or like thinking like, do I really have time for this, or is this really necessary? Like we're pouring, I mean, we are working on this every day. But the fact of the matter is, like, I know what live music does for me when I experience it, whether it's seeing a giant dog or Lil Nas X or whatever, like, oh my gosh, like it gives me so much life. And so I know that it matters. And so I also just want anybody who's wondering like whether their art matters to know like it matters to me. And so I know it matters.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really can't really add too much to that. Erin, I knew that Erin would put it pretty perfectly.
Aw.
I would just say it's very easy to get off track, and off track means focusing on the wrong things. And the right things to focus on are, first of all, is music right for you? If you have that feeling like music is right for you, then music is right for you. And it doesn't really, nothing else really matters except that you're doing it. And if you choose to play music with other people, like be in a band, if you decide that's what you want to do, then be in a band with the right people, not the best musicians necessarily. I mean, of course, like eventually you'll all become great musicians. Everybody becomes a great musician eventually, but if they stick to it long enough, but it's really about the people that you're with, because that whole experience is about energy, and energy comes from people. Like music doesn't come from your hands. It just doesn't work that way. So we're talking about like manipulating energy on a different level, and that has to do with people.
Yeah, and I will give everybody the message that Andrew has given to me so many times and that I didn't always believe, but I've come to understand that he believes it. And so I believe it, which is like, you can do anything. Like, I would not be at the level that on certain things that, we needed me to be. And I'm pulled in a lot of directions as a mom and as a person who's like in justice work and all of that. But he would say, like, you can do anything if you practice or put your mind to it or whatever. And sometimes I wanted to be like, oh, but it really is true. And it has proved to be true. And so I also, I say like, find yourself bandmates, collaborators who like really believe that you can do anything.
Hell yeah. Well, Erin Walter and Andrew Solin, thank you. This is just delightful. You two are delightful.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Well,
so are
yeah,
you.
you were so fun. I knew it was going to be great to come back, and I'm so happy to come back now that we've survived.
Yeah.
Can we just celebrate that we survived?
Yeah, let's just make it a plan that like every 2 years, then we have to have another podcast so that we can make sure that we're both still alive.
Totally. And we're going to bring you our, Andrew, what did you say it was? Like the rock opera that's like silly and all tropes allowed.
Please.
Yeah, as soon as we write that one, we'll definitely get that to you.
Please. If you let me play the triangle on your album,
consider it done.
Yeah. Okay. That's a dream. It's just a dream of mine.